Fallout 3 came out in 2008 and Fallout 4 2015. With such a large time between the games, you'd expect Fallout 4 to be the much greater title, yet general community perception is mixed. So we're going to revive my old game versus game series and put these two titles head to head in key features I find important, and decide which of these titles is better, and also which one I recommend you play today, as it's not always the same answer. Before we get into this video, you should come and join my Discord, and you can have these discussions about which game you prefer every single day with like-minded individuals. And on top of that, subscribe so you don't miss the next game versus game. Let's start with what I consider the most important element of any game, the map we get to play in. Fallout 3 has a very different map to Fallout 4. It has a very bland, bleak, dreary look. Its colour palette is very uninteresting, and I also find it quite restricting. And I find that this gets a lot worse the more city areas you head to, and also I feel the map generally feels smaller than 4. Now, some of these may sound like negatives, but I actually think it makes Fallout 3 rather unique. That dreary, washed out, greeny colour palette it has, whilst being very unappealing to the eye, absolutely sells the wasteland to me. It looks like exactly what I'd expect a post-apocalyptic wasteland to look like. Now, when you move over to 4, I feel it heads too far in the other direction. It's stunning and super pretty. God rays are everywhere, and it looks just too perfect for the wasteland. It's a massive open space with plenty to explore, and it's definitely a good map, but I find the visual style doesn't sell Fallout quite as well as I'd like. That being said, I find the map much more enjoyable than 3. I think it has more to do, is generally more fun to explore, and I just tend to sink more time into Fallout 4 because of this. So despite it not being the perfect Fallout map, I'm going to give Fallout 4 the point. Let's talk story, as it's very important. I'm just going to be bold here. I think Fallout 3 has a much better story than 4. I also think its side quests are typically better too. Fallout 3's main story isn't anything special, let me make that clear. It's good and it does the job and it leaves the player mostly satisfied, but I don't think it's the best writing in any game ever. Now Fallout 4 on the other hand, I don't know, I feel it's a bit of a jumbled mess. The only thing I quite like about it is how it leaves you with a bit of a dilemma regarding saving or destroying the Institute and whether you're dooming or saving humanity's future. But I can't help but feel it's got too many really goofy elements, like Sean being the leader of the Institute, that just felt so goofy. And it's for reasons like that I just can't quite get invested in it, but I will credit it for some amazing visual storytelling. That moment when you're in Kellogg's brain was awesome, I loved the way it looked, it was very immersive, very cool, I was very on board with that. I don't think Fallout 4's story is as bad as some people make out, but I do think Fallout 3 has a better one. I think Fallout 4 has some pretty strong faction quests, and I love some of the side quests with characters. And Fallout 3 has Megaton, you physically can't go wrong there. I am going to give Fallout 3 the point however for story, as I think it's stronger overall. And I do also think it has the better side quests, as I said, but I think overall, both are fairly solid. But I think Fallout 4 just loses it in the main story department, personally. I honestly can say I prefer Starfield. Let's talk characters, they bring the story to life. Fallout 3 I find, and maybe I'll get flamed for this, can have some pretty forgettable characters. Annoyingly, I find the most memorable characters to be at the beginning of the game, but that's just because that intro is just so iconic. But I honestly can't remember more than a handful of characters from the main game. They're not bad, let me make that very clear, I just don't think they're too legendary. Completely enjoyable cast of characters, plenty of cool ones, I just don't think when it comes to the cast, there's a ton of memorable ones. Especially when you compare it to games like New Vegas. Fallout 4 on the other hand, I might go as far as to say it's the strongest point about the game. You have Nick Valentine, synth detective and general badass, and then there's Codsworth, English murderbot. MacCready is awesome, again. Then there's pretty much everyone in the Brotherhood of Steel questline. I could go on, but I generally think Fallout 4's characters are pretty fantastic. They do a great job of voice acting, they do a great job of being pretty unique. I'm mostly happy with Fallout 4, and I'm going to give it the point as I think Fallout 4 sweeps characters pretty easily with no competition. But this is one I'm willing to be argued on. Let me know down below who your favourite character is, because there is definitely going to be some angry people in this comment section. Let's talk gameplay. This unfortunately is where Fallout 3's age is beginning to show. Combat is generally quite unfun. I find shooting guns to be pitifully boring in this game. I can't blame it though. It's an old title, but it doesn't feel like it's fun to kill people. Which is bad in a game like Fallout for obvious reasons. Luckily, I think some more fun quests make up for it, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the combat. It has that classic Bethesda walk everywhere movement, which I can't stand from older Bethesda games. It's always so slow and means I have to dedicate every point to agility. Unfortunately, age really does hold Fallout 3 back. Maybe they should remake it, wink wink nudge nudge Bethesda. Fallout 4 on the other hand revamps the combat and the movement, and I find it's 100% more fun to go running and pew pew enemies. The AI is also a lot more fun to shoot at and better, which isn't really saying much, I know, Bethesda jank and all, but yes, I do typically find Fallout 4's gameplay to be its strongest point, and where combined with the map, it makes up for its lacking substance in the story. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to give it the point on this one too. For my last point, and probably my longest point, I want to talk about innovation. Both these games did innovate the Fallout franchise in very different ways. Fallout 3, of course, being the overall innovation of, well, a first-person open-world RPG Fallout game. It was the game that took that first step into the unknown. It showed us that the game could work in an open-world RPG format, it showed us that we can make our own characters and explore the wasteland with them, it showed us how complex quests could work in this type of game, it showed us strong companions, and it was the first game in the series, in my opinion, to really bring the Fallout vision to life. Its atmosphere was fantastic, its world, whilst I have my complaints, was pretty fantastic, and overall it was a great proof of concept game. Now of course Fallout 4's innovations are in very different areas. We can't credit Fallout 4 to the same global proof that this game can work that we can Fallout 3. But it was the first Fallout game to have settlements, which were really awesome, make your own bases. I will genuinely never forget my first experience transforming the Red Rocket into my own base and setting up shops and stores and building walls and guns. That genuinely is a core memory for me, and it was proof that Fallout 4 did innovate in some very meaningful ways. We also have stuff like gun customization, add a suppressor to a weapon, take a suppressor away, do you want a sight on that? Put it on too. It also generally improved upon the gameplay as I spoke about earlier, but of course in many more meaningful ways than you would think. For example, it removed gun durability, a feature which I find generally annoying and one of the things that kinda ruins Fallout 3 for me. I don't look forward to playing the game because of that feature. Another thing that I typically don't bring up in these game versus games is graphics. Now, I feel it's always unfair to compare graphics of two games because here's the general rule. If it released later, it looks better, and that totally applies here. But it is important to remember that Fallout 4 did bring the game to this beautiful level. It is still, in my opinion, one of the better looking Bethesda games. That's not saying much considering we've had a total of 2 since Fallout 4. But my point is, you do have to credit Fallout 4 for the innovations it brings to the table. Innovation is, in my opinion, the groundwork of Fallout. It was what made it so special, and I think Fallout 5 will need to innovate a lot when that game eventually comes out down the road to be on that same legendary status. I mean, Fallout 76 was even a groundbreaking innovation in PR nightmares. Subscribe for that joke, that was good. Admit it, you laughed. I see you laughing. You didn't laugh, okay. Now for me, I don't think you can ever top the innovation of Fallout 3. Taking a vision and making it reality is one hell of an achievement, and no matter what people say about Bethesda, you will always have to credit them for that. They took a vision and brought it to life in one of the most beautiful reimaginings of all time. So Fallout 3 can get the point there. So, tallying up the scores, I'm going to give Fallout 4 the better game status. I think that Fallout 3 was by far a more innovational game, and I also think it's a more freeing game in terms of player ability. But I think Fallout 4 as a title, as a package, is typically just a better game. If I gave these two games to someone to this day and said, which game do you think is better? And you remove all the foresight of the innovation of the title and just gave them two products, I think most people would go Fallout 4. The fact its gameplay is enhanced to the point it is, the fact it looks as good as it is and it has some great characters, I think most people would generally side on Fallout 4, even if 3 is maybe an objectively better game. But at least in the elements I compared today, I think 4 does win it over 3. And I would definitely recommend Fallout 4 over 3 to anyone who is playing Fallout today. Now, if Fallout 3 was ever to get a certain remake, a bit like Oblivion, like has been rumoured, that would absolutely change my opinion on this. I think Fallout 3 has all the substance and none of the execution due to its dated nature. Now if it was to have all the execution, let's just say Fallout 3 could very quickly rise to be the greatest Fallout ever made if it was to have one hell of a remake. And if we didn't count New Vegas. Well, thank you for watching this video. I'm sure there's some things we're going to disagree on here, and that's completely fine. Isn't it great how we can all disagree and be happy together? I do personally prefer Fallout 4, so maybe I've got a little bit of a bias. I'm willing to admit it. We're all adults here, okay? We can admit our little biases. But I do think Fallout 3 is an exceptional game. I've put many, many, many hours into the title. And unfortunately, when you do put two games head to head, one does have to come out on top. And for me, that's Fallout 4. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.